We just heard from a Texas doctor on the front lines of fighting coronavirus who says America is out of its mind if we think we're ready to reopen schools. The Texas Tribune reports that nearly 20% of all coronavirus deaths in the state were reported in the last week. In El Paso, there have been over 15,000 reported cases of coronavirus and at least 285 deaths. The El Paso City Council just extended its disaster declaration for another 30 days, which will delay the start of in-person school, at least until September 8th, but possibly later if the city or the state issue new guidance. Joining us now is former Democratic Congressman Beto O'Rourke from El Paso. He's the founder of Powered by People, a grassroots organization with the goal of helping Democratic candidates get elected across Texas. And I want to talk about elections and toss-up states and all of that with you. But really what I want to talk about is the coronavirus. You have been raising the alarm for months in Texas about the dangers, about how things are going wrong, about the Rio Grande Valley, and everything you warned was going to happen has happened.
You're right. It was totally preventable. And when the governor chose not to follow the science and the facts, and public health experts like Dr. Gandhi, who you just had on, who's one of our heroes, the result was totally predictable. And you now have 7,803 of my fellow Texans who have lost their lives to this pandemic and who didn't have to if the governor had shut down this state earlier and kept it shut down until we had a contact tracing and testing regimen that we could aggressively follow to contain the spread of this virus, and until our positivity rate came down. It's still at 17% right now. And as you just mentioned, he's going to open up the schools in Texas, and in fact, by executive order, will not allow local school districts, including those in the Rio Grande Valley, to delay their reopening, even when they have uncontrolled spread and deaths so bad that they're piling up the bodies in refrigerated trucks. That's what's going on in Texas. Today, we reported 306 deaths. And when you look at the entire United States, I think that the U.S. was a little over 1,200 deaths. So we're almost a quarter of the deaths reported in the United States, and there is still no plan whatsoever to get this under control and to save the lives of our fellow Texans. One human face that I want to put on this, Daniel Morales, 39 years old. He was a nurse working in different dialysis centers in El Paso. When COVID hit, and it hit hard in this community, he started treating COVID patients in area hospitals. He just succumbed to COVID-19, 39 years old, 4 children that he's leaving behind, and he did not have to die. And more will die unless we change course, and change course now.
We have a social safety net in this country that is skewed. It's skewed against the poor. But in some cases, the way that manifests along the Mexico-Texas border is that it skews against Hispanics.
Absolutely. You look at El Paso, this is an 85% Mexican-American community. You get down in the Rio Grande Valley into Cameron, Hidalgo, and Starr counties, and I've talked to folks on the ground there, including elected leaders and hospital folks and nurses there. Those communities are 90 to 95% Mexican-American. Let's be honest about who is dying because of the inaction of our state government and the ineptitude of our national government. By and large, it's Black Americans, it's Native Americans, and it's Latinos in this country and in the state of Texas. And so this is on the hands, this is the responsibility of, and we will hold accountable, our governor, Greg Abbott, our president, Donald Trump, who are responsible for these deaths so far, but still have the opportunity to get this right. You know, follow the science and the facts and the truth, and let's shut down some of these communities, especially the hardest hit, and have people stay at home until we can get this contained and under control. And by all means, do not reopen schools and put those kids, and by extension their parents and grandparents, in harm's way. The teachers, the support staff, the bus drivers, the cafeteria workers, all of whom undoubtedly will be affected by this if you send people back into schools when the positivity rate in the testing that we do have in Texas is still at 17%.
New York's at 1%, just to give people a comparison at this point. Let me ask you about your election, or your attempt to get elected to statewide office. You almost became the first Democrat elected to statewide office in a long time in 2018. Now NBC has put Texas down as a toss-up state. What happens? What do you do to take Texas into the Democratic column?
This is a reflection of what those of us who live in Texas have been seeing and have been saying to the rest of the country. This is not a red state, and it may not be a blue state. It historically has been a non-voting state. And on the 55th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, in one of the most voter-suppressed states in the Union, where the voter turnout was 50th in the country because Black and Latino Texans have been drawn out of their democracy, the people are taking power back. We are registering tens of thousands of new voters. Our group, Powered by People, is literally calling every likely Democratic voter in this state, a state of 29 million people, to make sure that Democrats up and down the ballot, including Joe Biden, have actionable contact information for every likely voter. Because we can't have rallies, we can't hold town halls, we can't knock on doors, but we can call and text those who will decide the most important election of our lifetimes. And with 38 electoral college votes, even if Donald Trump tries to steal this election and create chaos and confusion, and he's already sending the signals that he's going to do this over mail-in balloting, if Texas comes in on November 3rd for Joe Biden, the first time it will have for a Democrat since 1976, then we can begin to start the new chapter, turn the page on Donald Trump and Trumpism, and get after the big work that we have to do in this country.
Beto O'Rourke, stay with us, please. I want to ask you about Donald Trump's new outlandish claim about the coronavirus vaccine and when it's going to be available. And I want to know how that's going to work with voters. We'll be back in a moment. Today, the President of the United States, without any supporting evidence, claimed that a vaccine could be ready by Election Day.
We have a lot of vaccines under study, by the way. We look like we're going to be really good on vaccines and with therapeutics also.
So what's the earliest we could see that, a vaccine?
Sooner than the end of the year. Could be much sooner.
Sooner than November 3rd?
Oh, I think in some cases, yes, possible before, but right around that time.
Later today, at the White House, President Trump once again reiterated that a vaccine could be available before the election without any proof.
You said that a vaccine could be ready around November 3rd. Are you optimistic that that will happen? And will that give you a boost in the election?
On the vaccine?
Yeah.
I am. I'm optimistic that it'll be probably around that date. I believe we'll have the vaccine before the end of the year, certainly, but around that date, yes, I think so.
President, will that give you a boost in the election? Will that help you in the election?
It wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt, but I'm not doing that. I'm doing it not for the election. I want it fast because I want to save a lot of lives.
So here's the thing. For those of you who are thinking about voting for someone else, but because Donald Trump says there's going to be a vaccine by November 3rd, maybe you should vote for him. If he's right and there's going to be a vaccine, you'll get it either way. Donald Trump's view of the coronavirus vaccine is really not something that thinking people should depend upon. They can depend on guidance of experts like Dr. Anthony Fauci, who said this today.
We're trying very hard to ultimately get a vaccine that might be available by the end of the year or the beginning of 2021. But that's many months away.
Beto O'Rourke is back with us. Mr. O'Rourke, this is not high science. We talk to epidemiologists, virologists, people who know things about these clinical trials. They take a certain amount of time. This is going to be the most popular vaccine in the history of the world. Everybody's going to want it, which means we have to actually go through proper tests to make sure it's not detrimental to people. There's nobody who suggested we're going to have a vaccine by the beginning of November. Why does the president do this? This is disinformation. This is lying. This isn't misleading. This is straight up lying, and it's damaging.
It is, and I think the way that you are presenting this within that context is the only way to report this. And I sometimes wonder how you and other journalists can do your job with a president who operates with this level of mendacity, lying all the time about the most important things in our lives, like the life or death of our family members, in a country that now has more than 160,000 of our fellow Americans dead, representing a quarter of the deaths on planet Earth, right here in the wealthiest, most powerful, most medically and scientifically advanced country that the world has ever known. How could this happen but for a monumental failure in leadership? So you are right to be beyond dubious and skeptical and call that the lie that it is, and instead listen to Dr. Fauci, who by and large has been right about this at every turn. And whenever he's been wrong, he's admitted it, he's corrected the record, and he's been governed by the science and the facts and the truth that we all deserve. So look, let's hope that this administration is as successful as it can possibly be in helping to develop a vaccine. Lives literally depend on it. But let's not hold out hope that the president is telling the truth, because this would be the first time in his administration that he has told the truth about something that's important to this country. The best thing that we can do now is to stay at home. And if you must leave, wear a mask. Wash your hands all the time and stay more than 6 feet away from any other human being that's not in your household. That needs to be the direction that we receive from the federal government, from our state governments, and from our local government.
Yeah.
And in states like mine, where you have hundreds of people dying a day, I think you need to lock down these communities again until you get transmission under control.
Congressman, I just want to talk to you about something that Joe Biden said today about your hometown of El Paso. Let's listen.
On Monday, we marked the one-year anniversary of the tragic mass shooting in El Paso, where a gunman explicitly sought to target Latinos, and 23 beautiful lives were stolen from us and their families. I know what it's like to lose a child, and I know what it's like to lose a wife. It is awful. It is starkly, I shouldn't get started.
Things move so quickly that seems like so long ago. What a tragic moment in our history. I wouldn't mind your reflection on it, please, sir.
First of all, what you just showed makes the case for Joe Biden as a leader of this country. At a time that we are so deeply divided, when so many people are suffering, and so many have lost a family member because of this pandemic and our president's inability to address it, you need somebody who can bring us back together again, who can help to heal, and who understands pain and suffering at this level. And that uniquely is Joe Biden. And on the other hand, you need to know that the 23 people who were murdered in this community, murdered because of the color of their skin, their perceived ethnicity or immigration status, were murdered in large part because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump, who called immigrants Asian, an infestation, animals, and treated them as such, sent the signal to this killer that he should take them out, and he did. So we have a very clear choice before us in November. I sure hope this country comes down for Joe Biden.
Beto O'Rourke, former presidential candidate and former Democratic congressman from Texas, thank you for joining us tonight.